Welcome back, class. Today, we are going to be talking about gathering. Remember, this is a guide for people who want to do stuff on their own with little or minimal help from the market. Now, if you're still here, there should be timestamps for whatever part you need. And this is a part 2, essentially. The first video is the mastery video. You're going to need to know the information in that video for a lot of this to make sense. So I will mention that multiple times throughout the video, but I would go back and watch that first if you haven't, and come back to this one. The reason why I split them up is because the mastery video is relevant to almost every single life skill, so I wanted it to be its own separate thing so people didn't have to come back for the gathering guide when they were doing a hunting guide or something. But just think of that video as a prerequisite of this. First off, let's talk about why you should gather. Gathering is used to get pretty much any item in the game that doesn't come from vendors or grinding. This obviously is excluding items through processing, alchemy, and cooking, and stuff like that. But all of these life skills rely heavily on gathering, so it's going to be where you're getting most of your base resources for pretty much everything. Next, let's talk about your class. Yes, it does matter. Shy is a life skiller. She starts with Professional 1, and since life skills are family-wide now, you can just make one and you'll have Professional 1 off the rip. So this is for people who do not have Professional 1 yet. I would suggest for an actual gathering class, though, someone who is easily controllable that has fast movement. I personally use Musa. He has a really good dash. You can get from tree to tree super easily. There's plenty of other classes that are great. Realistically, though, your best option is going to be whoever is your main and has weight. So I wouldn't re-roll. There is one exception to this, and that is underwater gathering. The only viable option, in my opinion, is Corsair. You can get swim speed buffs, you can get other things, but Corsair has her shift skill while she's in water, and it's just a big dash, and it's so good. So I would highly suggest rolling Corsair if you're going to do any underwater gathering. Next, let's talk about tools. There are 3 repairable tools that give mastery, those being Logia, Doster, and Manos. For the Logia and Doster, just buy them from Zaira and Velia. I suggest buying either of those and leveling them up only a small amount, and then rushing Manos. To make Manos tools, you use the manufacturing in the L tab. It uses 15 metal solvent, which is created through alchemy, 5 mana stones, which are bought at any jeweler for 5 million, 50 magical shards, which is made from melting sealed black magic crystals, and a magic tool that is of the same type of tool that you are trying to make. So if you want a lumbering axe, use a magic lumbering axe. Magic tools can be crafted in a Tool Workshop 3, so my suggestion is Heidel 5.3, that's the easy one to get to, or they're very commonly obtained through the Black Spirit Adventure. So more likely than not, you're not going to need to do crafting for those. Now let's talk about clothes. Again, there is Logia clothes, Geranoa, and Manos. So the Logia and Geranoa are bought from Zaira again. And for the Manos clothes, you craft them using 30 Moonlight Opals, 5 Manos stones, 50 magical shards, and 15 dusk-laden cloth fabric. Now, let's talk about Pearl Shop items. If you spend money on this game, I would highly suggest waiting for a hedgehog pet to be available. They are available fairly often. There's actually one available right now if you're watching this within the first week that it's out. And for other useful things from the Pearl Shop, weight increases are very useful. Inventory slot increases can be useful if you're running out of inventory spaces. The Blessing of Kamasil gives energy recovery. The Value Pack gives you extra weight and inventory slots and life XP. And the Secret Book of Old Moon, while the least useful of those 3 big buffs, still gives good life XP. Other useful items include Lara's Warm Black Tea for gathering drop rate, energy potions for extra energy, Stella's Spirit Stone for the best alchemy stone in the game for gathering. I suggest you don't buy any of these consumables though. You get them from events sometimes, and if you don't have them, you're not going to really need them. It's not worth the loyalty cost. The only one I do suggest buying is if you do spend money on the game, the 3 big buffs, because they help in every single aspect of the game. But if you don't want to use them, you don't need to. Next, let's talk about mastery. If you need a broad overview of mastery, there is a link to the video in the description below. But for specifically gathering, mastery increases your odds of getting rare items, and it increases the amount of items you gather. For your level, all that does is it has a chance of not using energy while you are gathering. Next up, let's talk about each tool individually and their uses. Lumbering axes are used for chopping down trees. Next up, we have the Fluid Collector. This is used on trees to harvest sap or on animals to get blood. The next thing is a hoe. This is used on mushrooms, herbs, bushes, other plants, and also it's used underwater to gather clams and coral and other underwater gathering. So this one is the most versatile in the amount of uses it has. Then we have the butcher knife. This is used on animals that you kill, and you will get meat from it. Then we have a tanning knife. This is used to get hide, fur, and feathers on animals that you kill as well. And lastly, we have a pickaxe, and you just use this on rocks to get ore and gems. Next, let's talk about consumables. First, let's talk about Agris Fever. Agris Fever is the thing that you use while grinding to get more trash loot, but you can also use it while gathering to get more stuff. Personally, I like to use it when I'm gathering. I think it's worth it. If you are consistently capped on it, I would 100% use it. But if you use it while grinding and you don't really want to use it, you don't have to. Next, let's talk about food buffs. Your best bet for food buff is a seafood cron meal, but if you can't get that, then pickled vegetables are good in a pinch. Those are probably the easiest thing to make. There's a few other things that you can get, but seafood cron meal or pickled vegetables, pretty much anything in between is going to be more difficult to make or less worth using. As for elixirs and drafts, you can use the Worker's Elixir or the Verdure draft, but they are really expensive and I don't think they are worth using pretty much ever. I would rather use them for other life skills. For other consumables, the Giovann Support Scroll, Book of Florin, Lara's Warm Tea and stuff, those can be used. I wouldn't really use the Lara's Warm Tea, I would rather use that for Mountie XP. But the other two you can use if you need. Next, let's talk about artifacts, lightstones, and crystals. For your artifacts, you can either use the Mastery artifact or you can use the Gathering Drop Rate artifact. Either one's gonna work. Now for lightstones, if you are ironmanning this and you're not using the marketplace, again, all I have to say is good luck. This is pretty hard to do. Just do whatever you can, even if it's just XP lightstones. Now, if you do use the market and you do want to buy these, here's the set I suggest. It is a Forest, a Plains, a Fortune, and an Iridescent. This is going to give you the Yawning Hedgehog set effect, and this gives Gathering Experience, Gathering Mastery, Gathering Speed, Energy Recovery, Luck, and Gathering Drop Chance. If you want a more general Lightstone set, you can look at the Mastery Guide. Next, let's talk about crystals. For crystals, you're going to want to run life and vital crystals, as well as anything that's going to give you movement speed or weight. Also, ensure you are in a guild to get a +3 buff to gathering. Next, let's talk about gathering minigames. To unlock these, you need to do the quest titled Life, Green Thumb, use energy to gather more. And this is found in your suggested quest tab. To toggle the minigame on and off, go into your P menu, go onto the farthest right tab, the life skill tab, and there is a little switch right next to gathering, and you can just toggle it on and off. All this does is it gives you 10 times the resources for 10 times the amount of energy. So it is not more efficient in terms of energy, but it is significantly less time. So I would say keep these on unless you're going for something specific like the potion piece at Navern Step. Now to actually play these mini games, all you need to do is gather from a spot that you're gathering, and they will just randomly pop up sometimes. So to play each minigame, I'll go through and show you how. For the axe minigame, all you need to do is press space, and when the moving bar hits the blue region, just hit it, and you need to do this a few times, and there you go, and that's it. For the hoe, it is a memory minigame. You need to memorize where all of the roots are, and then using WASD and space to turn over the tiles, you just need to show all of the roots how they were in the beginning of the game. For the butcher knife, you just need to stop the bar on the circle when it is next to meat, and those will be highlighted yellow. You need to do this 3 times. For the tanning knife, you just need to play Flappy Bird, so press space to make it go up, and just make sure you don't hit any of the lines. For the fluid collector, it's fairly similar to the axe, except for this one, you have to hold space and then let go when you hit the part that you need to. And the goal is to fill that full fluid collector, so it usually takes about 3 times. Lastly though, we have the pickaxe. For this one, you need to hit the red dots using WASD to control it and spacebar to hit, and you're gonna wait till you find one that starts cracking, and then you just spam space on the one that starts cracking and you will finish the game. These minigames also have a very small chance to drop ginseng, which is an item that gives you a 90-day buff for your family. It's really good. It also sells on the market and it's pretty expensive, so if you're lucky enough to get it, that's really cool. I've never gotten one personally. When you are gathering, you will come across Fairy's Breath. I would say save the first 300 for your Floramos accessory, and then after that, exchange them for either Contribution and Gathering XP or 2 Sharp Blackstones. You exchange these with Dalyshane in any major city and Velia. Finally, let's talk about what you should gather. The answer to that is whatever you need. The best way to find out where to gather is using the BDOLytics interactive map. It's super easy to use and you can select any resource in the game that you need. If you are trying to make money using the marketplace, I wouldn't really suggest doing gathering for it, but if you are, just look up a guide to figure out what's the most efficient thing, look at the marketplace, figure out what you're going to get the most money for. Overall though, gathering is super easy, it's really not that complicated, so don't sweat it too much. If you have any questions about gathering, or if I missed anything, be sure to leave it in the comments below and I will pin a comment with any corrections or any other information that I might have missed. Anyway though, thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time.